Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday Night Live. So, as you can see, I'm not I'm not at home tonight. I'm away in a hotel at the moment. So, hopefully the camera looks okay. Hopefully the sound's okay. Let me know down in the chat if the sound's all right. Had a little bit of a mad panic because I managed to forget to bring my microphone with me, so I'm having to use my headphones, and these do sound better than the microphone that's on my camera. So, hopefully that sounds okay. Um, I'll very quickly just have a quick look and see who we've got in the chat tonight. So we've got Todd in. Nice to see you, Todd. In the pond at Columbus, Ohio. So good afternoon to you. We've also got Mark is in as well. Nice to see you, Mark. How have you managed to play any of your Walking Dead yet since you picked that up at Salute? We've got Christian's in as well. Nice to see you, Christian. We've got Neil Anderson is in. Hi, Neil. Nice to see you too. We've got Steve from Steve's Small World. Good evening. We've got Jamie in. Nice to see you, Jamie. We've got Jens in who's saying hi, managed it. Yeah, baby sleeping and the wife too. Glad to see you here, Jens. Really good to have you involved. We have got Lexi Leiden in. Welcome. Looks like you managed to find it as well, and you found the chat too. He says you seem to be logged in as your son. That's all right. I know who you are. That's fine. You'll be glad to know we're using your topic for this evening, so I'll come on to that in a second. And we've got Apollo Syndrome as well. Hello there to you too. So we've got quite a few in, quite early, nice and early tonight. So yeah, I feel see. So Neil's saying he feels seedy watching someone in a hotel. I can promise you there'll be no stripping, no dancing. Feel free to throw money at the screen if you want to, though that'll be all right. But yeah, that's it's going to be a very classy one tonight, I would say. We've also got Suburban Scumbag who's in as well. So nice to see you too. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I asked in the Facebook group again for some topic ideas. Again, loads of good ideas. Sorry I can't use them all on sort of on one stream. I think we'd be here for a couple of nights if we did that. But what the one I'm using tonight is from um, oh, I forgot your name. It's John, isn't it? Is it John Lydon? Or am I thinking of the guy from the Sex Pistols now? That's not very good, is it? Let me just double check here. I'm going back to my list. It's Tony. Sorry, Tony Lydon. That's it. So Tony came up with the subject for tonight, and it is what makes a good rule set in a miniatures game. And I thought that was quite interesting because it's what sort of why do we choose one game or over another? Is it a good rule set? Sometimes the miniatures themselves are enough to get you interested, but if the rules aren't up to scratch, then you probably won't hang around too long. So yeah, so that's the main chat tonight. Yeah, Tony's correcting me there now. Yeah, John, I'm sure John Lydon was in the Sex Pistols, wasn't he? That's where I've got the name from. Um, so yeah, so that's our topic for tonight. We'll give people a few chances just to kind of to catch up and get in with a chat with us just starting. Um, we've also got Tim's in as well. Nice to see you, Tim. Um, so yeah, what's everybody been up to? Everybody hobbying tonight? Is anybody painting anything specific? Did anybody go to Salute? Not last weekend, the weekend before. I know there's a few people in here. Jamie certainly did, and also Mark as well. I spent a bit of time with Mark while I was down there, so it was good to finally catch up face to face with Mark. Um, just wondering, did anybody go? Did anybody pick anything up? Has anybody sort of been back in any new games or anything? Just before we kick off with the main chat. So yeah, hopefully the stream should be all right tonight. I specifically picked this hotel because they've got good Wi-Fi here. Some of the hotels I go to, I might as well just try and stream it from my phone because the Wi-Fi is awful. But this one is particularly good. So I'm here in Manchester. If I look out of this window just to my right here, I've got a view over Old Trafford. So any Manchester United supporters in here, yeah, I'm sure you'd love to see this. You'd love to see the view. If there's any City supporters in, I apologise. So yeah, he's saying John Lydon, Johnny Rotten ex-wife's cousin. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't go too much on that one then. You got a little bit of buffer in there. Sorry, Todd. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's a bit of a one-off and it doesn't cause too many issues tonight. It's saying it's all right at my end. So hopefully it plays ball tonight and we're all right. So Jamie is saying he's exhausted himself painting the Eidolon. I think that's how you pronounce it. So for anybody that hasn't seen it, if you head over to the Facebook group, Jamie's just posted up a photograph of what he's been painting there tonight. It looks fantastic, Jamie. You've done a great job of it. Airbrush or not, the blending on the back looks fantastic. Mark's saying he's still backing the Zombicide Invader at the moment. Yeah, there's not too long left on that, Mark, is there? I must admit, I did have a look at it yesterday just to see how it was going from a funding position and just to see what had been unlocked. Tony saying he's just finished up Screaming Antelope from Kingdom Death Monster. I tell you what, I've seen loads about Kingdom Death Monster recently. I don't know why it's suddenly seems to be sort of picking up again. Has there been another expansion just kind of released or something, or just shipped? Christina saying he's painting Sarah from the Labyrinth board game. Oh, you'll have to get some pictures of that one up, Christian, because I remember seeing, is it Ludo, the big kind of furry character thing, and is it Hoggle, the little kind of goblin dwarf thing, and they looked fantastic. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Glad it's cleared up, Todd. Yeah, working on the Green Horde minis. Plenty of love for Zombicide tonight. Jens is saying he's just printed stuff for Legion last week's, and now I'm upgrading Red Beam Design Queenstown to a Star Wars city. Yeah, I'm using some of the Red Beam Design stuff into a Star Wars kind of like a rebel kind of base thing. So yeah, it's just about getting the painting right, I think, for me. Mark saying there's 10 days left on Zombicide, but they just dropped a $90 add-on called the Dark Side. Ooh, did they now? In your opinion, does it look worth the $90? Because I know they had, is it a Black Ops? I think it was the expansion, but I think that was the expansion was only maybe $30 or $40, wasn't it? So this one sounds like it's quite a big one. And Jens is saying, and of course, trying to manage my life after the birth of your son. I didn't realise that, Jens. Congratulations to you and your wife. Hope he's behaving himself at the minute for you. Suburban Scumbag saying he's working on some Walking Dead terrain, one of the MDF houses. Yeah, that's the thing with Walking Dead. Some of the terrain you can get for that is really, really nice. There's a lot of businesses have jumped on board and made terrain for that. And because the size of the board isn't too big, you can really you don't have to spend a fortune to get a really good looking board for that. Mark saying that the expansion is a standalone game. Looks very odd. Oh, it looks very good. Sorry, I think that means. Oh, that'll be good. That'll be interesting to see that then. And Todd saying, yeah, it's worth it. You're welcome, Jens. No problem at all. So then, folks, hobby-wise, what have I been doing these last few weeks? So we had Salute a couple of weekends ago. That kind of swallowed up that weekend. I have done a little bit more with my Star Wars Legion. So the Stormtroopers are probably about half done now. I've kind of been taking my time with those, really. Not because I've been specifically trying to do a good job, just because I've not. I'll be honest, they're a bit dull to paint. Just keep painting a full squad of white Stormtroopers and going and putting the black bits on. It's not that interesting, if I'm honest. So I'm having to motivate myself to kind of slog through those. I actually put together all of the Death Guard from the Dark Imperium box set that I've had sitting around since it launched. So I decided to put all of them together, and I've also put together the Primaris half as well, the Space Marine half of that box set. So I did that yesterday and got them primed as well. And what I'm thinking is I think I've mentioned this before. I've never managed to get into 40k at any point. And what I thought was I've got all these miniatures just sitting around, doing nothing. What I might do is I might actually just get them built up and try and have a small sort of the starter box, the Dark Imperium box, have a little bit of a starter game with my son, just to see what I think of it, really, because I feel it's such a big game in gaming circles that I can't really sort of say whether I like it or I don't like it. So I thought I'd give it a try. So yeah, so I'm gonna just give them a really quick paint job and see how that plays. We've got Jamie saying, like this game of Legion, wasn't impressed with all the cards, but very Star Wars. It is very thematic, isn't it? But there is quite a lot of cards. I think that's probably one of the reasons why they've gone for 6x3. So you've got a nice bit of space either side of the board for all those cards. We've got Sammy in tonight. Nice to see you, Sammy. How are you doing? Hope everything's all right. Just been watching your brother streaming Destiny 2 tonight before I came on here. He's doing pretty well. Neil saying you need the supermarket for Walking Dead. When you by the saying the supermarket, Neil, I assume do you mean the big shopping mall from Foreground? Because that is amazing. It's huge, absolutely huge. Um, Todd is saying, why does the UK get all the cool minis and games? Sorry, Todd. I think it's probably just due to the fact that we've got a big. So where Games Workshop is in the UK, in Nottingham, we have managed to get lots of companies spring up around Nottingham of all ex Games Workshop employees. So it seems to have become the hub or the mecca of the gaming world. So we do get quite a lot of good stuff in the UK. So that's quite nice. Sammy's saying we get screwed on the prices. No, I don't think we get screwed on the prices when it's made in the UK, Sammy. We probably get screwed on the prices when it's made overseas and gets shipped in. But yeah, it's not cheap anyway. Tony saying prime the Legion core set, but keep putting off on starting the Stormtroopers. Yeah, it's honestly, it's making me want to just play the Rebel side. As much as I love Darth Vader and the aesthetic of the Stormtroopers, I think painting mountains and mountains of white Stormtroopers might get a little bit tedious before too long. Apollo Syndrome is saying he's starting a Skaven army and building some Storm Fiends. Really disappointed with the limitations of the kit. Not used to being disappointed with Games Workshop products. Yeah, it's you normally get plenty of options, don't you, with GW kits? I wonder whether the Skaven one's just a particularly old kit and it's maybe a little bit dated now. I don't think it's changed too much, has it, since the old fantasy days? So anyway, chaps, we are what time are we at? We're about 9:15 now. We've got a few people in the chat, so I think we'll kick off with the topic for tonight, which is what makes a good rule set for a miniatures game. So somebody else commented on this as well, and um, they mentioned one of a subject to talk about tonight also would be why has Gaslands been so successful? Now I think with Gaslands it's probably a good example of a rule set really, and what makes a good rule set because it's certainly not the miniatures that's the attraction. It could be that it is the miniatures, the fact that you don't need to paint them. You just buy your toy cars and you can tweak them. Maybe it's the cost, maybe it's the low cost introduction, but it definitely seems to be pulling quite a bit of interest around the hobby at the minute. There's certainly a few guys from my gaming group have got into it, and since they played a game at the last club night, there's a few others have kind of saw them having a bit of fun, and now they're getting on board. But the rule set itself is very simple and it's quite interesting. It's quite fun. It's pretty straightforward, nothing too technical. But there's a bit of forethought and a bit of tactics about it. Well, if I think about rule sets for other miniatures games, um, one miniatures game that seems to be kind of on its way out at the moment seems to be War Machine. Now, I don't know whether any of you guys in the chat play War Machine or have ever played War Machine. But it used to be a big game. It was the game that was really seen before the sort of Star Wars X-Wing days. Excuse me. It was the game that was seen as really Games Workshop's sort of number one sort of contender or their competition really. I played it for quite some time and was quite big into the tournament scene. Went to quite a few tournaments where there was sort of 128 people. Tickets would sell out in the first day, kind of thing. It was a really sort of popular game. But from what I've seen recently, Privateer Press have gone very quiet. They certainly didn't have any representation at Salute like they used to do. They used to have quite a big stand, and then they used to do a kind of like a speed painting thing, and they had plenty of demo tables to give the game a try. And I saw some of the companies very heavily discounting it and trying to sell off their starter boxes and trying to sell off some of their army boxes. So that's a game that I think has suffered from the rule set. So when I got into War Machine, it was in I think they called it was it I forget I think it was called like Prime 2 or something like that. It was the second version of War Machine anyway. And not too long ago they went into a third edition of the rules. And at that point it seemed to take a nosedive. And I don't know the details, so if anybody does know more about it, please do put it in the chat. But it seemed to take a bit of a nosedive at that point, and there was a lot of people complaining about the rule set, and it never seems to have really recovered from that. There's been a lot of praise for the War Room app that they've got about how it controls sort of how you can see all of the cards for your army, and you can link it to your opponent's phone. You can see that all of the cards for their army as well, so you're not passing cards backwards and forwards across the tables. So that seems to have got them a bit of good press, but the rules themselves seem to have died a death. So, you folks there in the chat, what do you think is important about a rule set for games? One of the things, I've just got some comments tonight from somebody about my video about Warhammer Fantasy versus AOS, and the one of the things they said that they miss are those huge, big, massive, full-scale army battles and all of the big sort of thick rule books that go with it. And one of their complaints was basically that people just don't want to build big armies. They don't want to read big, thick rules anymore. They just want everything handed to them on a plate, essentially. And I think this is certainly it's jump-started the proliferation of skirmish rule sets. People want a relatively simple rule set to get into these days, I think. They want it easy to pick up. So games like Test of Honor, games like Walking Dead, even the Age of Sigmar rules were very much streamlined versus the old fantasy rules. 40k had its rebooted 8th edition with some streamed down rules. It seems to have grown back over time now, and it certainly seems to be probably a bit more in depth than when it first relaunched last year. But it's still a relatively straightforward rule set, I would say. So let's have a quick look in some of the chat here and see what we've got going on. So Sammy is saying, if you want to play Rebels, I'll just bang out some Stormtroopers and we can play like that. Sammy, if you want to finish them Stormtroopers, son, you finish them. Don't worry about that. Jamie saying he painted his troopers white again with the airbrush, too scared to start the black yet. I did that, Jamie. So I think I sprayed them grey to start with as a base coat, and then I sprayed them with a white, like a Halford's white primer over the top, and it looked a bit grey, actually, if I'm honest. So I bought a white Vallejo airbrush paint, and I went over it with the airbrush, and I'm really happy with the white colour. But you're right, the black bits, you've really got to get them bang on, otherwise it looks quite untidy, to be honest. I've seen a lot of people going the other way, priming them black, and then almost dry brushing them back up through grey to white, and trying to leave the black bits in the recess. But that feels like a hell of a lot of hard work. Todd saying he hasn't pulled the trigger yet on Legion, still on the fence about it. Yeah, I'm not surprised, Todd. I think there's quite a few people that are still a bit on the fence. At the minute, there's not massive amounts of kind of units to choose from, so everybody's pretty much playing the same armies. I don't think there's any fear in kind of giving it sort of 6 months from launch to see how it pans out. Wait till a few more units are out, and you've got a bit of choice about what you want to buy. Because there's a lot of people just diving in at the minute and buying multiples of the same thing to get up to that 800 points for the army, and that doesn't interest me at the minute. I'm kind of wanting to build mine with some new units. Sammy saying seems to be fairly popular. I think are you talking about? Let's see what Sammy's saying here. Seems to be fairly popular. Wouldn't expect it to be perfect straight away, but has potential to be refined fairly easily with huge audience, allowing for a bit of wiggle room. I assume you're talking about Star Wars there, Sammy, are you? Tim saying, got to be clear and concise with no room for misinterpretation. See Star Wars Legion cover rules. Yeah, that's it. What's been interesting is Fantasy Flight tend to make relatively tight rules, I would say, or certainly they get there. They try to be very specific. And from what I've seen recently with games like Shadespire, is when you tout your game to be competitive, you have to be 100% clear with the rules. Otherwise, people will question the far end of a fart with it. I mean, I think Jamie will certainly back me up on this one. Some of the questions that have come up about rules on cards and people trying to read, in my opinion, maybe reading too much into it and not allowing any kind of. I think in some cases it's obvious what it means, but they want an official ruling from Games Workshop in that position. I think the cover rules in Legion was another one a little bit like that as well. Mark is saying the rules need to be for 1 to X players, playable out of the box, runs 30 to 60 minutes. The time one's really interesting, Mark. I think certainly these days, games that run 3, 4, 5 hours are very, very quickly becoming a thing of the past. They're coming down to that kind of. Certainly, when I was a kid, a cousin of mine used to play historicals, and I remember him disappearing on a Sunday morning and coming back late Sunday evening, and half the time he never got the game finished. It took more time to set up all these individual little kind of sort of Civil War miniatures and things. It must have took forever. But that seems to be a bit of a thing of the past these days, unless you're very much into that. Jamie saying the rule set in AOS allows for much more strategic games at the top end player. It definitely does. I think it's at first glance it looks very simple, and I think when you look at the rules themselves, it's a very simple game to pick up and play the basics. But there's some real tactics and there's some real tweaks when you start looking into the war scrolls and how they interact and the how one unit will kind of forget the word I'm looking for really, but the synergies, that's the word I'm looking for, the synergies between the different units. Sammy's saying I prefer if they stop changing the bloody rules every 5 minutes. There's a lot of games like that at the minute where they have to keep tweaking them. I mean, I don't know if anybody here plays 40k, but there seems to be quite a big talk in the community at the minute with the new FAQ that come out recently. Seems to have changed a few things up. Mark saying lost count of how many FAQs they offer Shadespire now. Yeah, there are a lot, and I mean I can only sort of see from what I see on the Facebook groups, and from I get quite a lot of questions on my. I did a couple of videos about rules for beginners, and I think sometimes people think that I have the answer to every rules question, so they post a lot of rules questions on those videos. If I can find the answer, I'll reply to it. But majority, I think there's a lot of rules that are. I think it's easy to understand what was intended, but when you say that a game is going to be competitive, you need to be 100% clear and not just leave it for people to interpret what they think you meant. Tony saying rule sets have to help me teach the game and get people playing without too many lookup tables. I thought I might enjoy BattleTech, but so many numbers which put me off. That was one of the things I struggled with 40k back in 5th edition, I think it was, when I tried to play, was just all of the tables and the constantly referencing the back to books. It's one of the things I like about The Walking Dead. It's just the fact that once you've kind of run through those basics, there's nothing to look up. I like those coloured dice mechanics. You'll see on Wednesday that I went down to Needy Cat Games offices in Nottingham on Friday last week and filmed a Hellboy playthrough, which will go live when the Kickstarter goes live. And that's another game that uses coloured dice to do sort of. So if you've got green dice, they are better than red dice, for example, which are the worst dice. And there's different mechanics in that game that allow you to upgrade your dice for certain reasons, or if something happens, you can downgrade your dice. And I find that much easier than trying to kind of this kind of strength versus toughness and tables, and if I'm higher than you or if I double you, this is what you are. And yeah, so watch out for that one. It's if you're interested in kind of in the Hellboy Kickstarter, I think you'll be really happy with it when you see the gameplay video. Chat's gone a bit fast now. I've lost a few chats off the top here. Jens is saying need a good structure with many examples. I hate to jump from site to site in rule books. Yes, the flow of the rules. There's been quite a few games recently where they use the rule book. I think Star Wars Legion's not a bad example, where they use the rule book to kind of almost step you through the game. The Dread Ball 2nd edition rule book was the same. The rule book kind of took you through a step by step, a play by play to introduce the rules, and that was a really good way to teach you the rules. We've got Suburban Scumbag saying, I tried painting white using the Citadel app. Still on the fence about it. Has more of a pastel light blue than an actual white. Yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, what? It's funny, you wouldn't think there was multiple shades of white, really. There should just be white. But I certainly not saw a massive difference from painting with a white. I think it's Corax white, it's called, isn't it, from Games Workshop? From using Corax white to then using a Vallejo, a very kind of bright white. It made a huge difference. We've got Adam Rogerson tonight. Good evening, Adam. Hope you're very well. Jamie saying, drives you insane, just one step away from cheating. I assume... Oh, sorry, I missed one of your chats there. Personally love the quirks of AOS. rolling for activation and shooting into combat. Yeah, I quite like that as well. It's the shooting into combat's. It's something that got quite a lot of discussion about when it first came out, but it seems to have settled down now. Um, the, I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Jimmy, when you say about driving you insane. Maybe it might do further down, maybe. Tony saying agrees. Some people really stretch the boundaries of interpretation with cooperative, competitive games like Shadespire. I think that's what Jamie's talking about as well. Yeah, they're really trying to find that little wiggle room. They're trying to find anything that they can kind of sort. I hasten to say break the game, but they're just looking to try and interpret the rule in many different ways. To be honest, it's a bit of a shame because it's one thing that's kind of bogged down Shadespire a little bit, really. And as it grows and as there's more and more cards available and more rules that almost counteract each other, it's opening up a lot more of these questions, which is where all these FAQs are coming from. Todd saying All Out War, fairly straightforward rule set, making the game easy to learn and play. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like it. Is basically I can play it, have a game, know basically 90% of the rules. I might not play it again for 6 months, but when I go back to it, I kind of pick up where I left off, and I still probably only know 90% of the rules because I haven't played a lot of the fire rules or things like that. I maybe haven't ran through some of the more expansions, but in general, I can pick up the game, and it's very very easy to teach. Jamie saying Wild West Exodus. That's just jumping up the page there. Put me right off with the rule changes. Yeah, that was a weird one. I mean, um, War Cradle really got behind Wild West Exodus, and they were promoting the life out of it before that second edition rules was even sort of out. They were really trying to push it and saying, come and try the beta rules. The models are already available." Then they went and pushed out a new rule book with all of the second edition rules, and they're starting to change it again. And it's almost the game hasn't really had a chance to settle down. It's been a bit of a shame, really, because it's a beautiful looking game, but it just feels like it's. I mean, I had a demo at the store where Jamie goes, and it was. I enjoyed the demo. If Sam's still kicking around, it was Sam and I played against each other, and I really enjoyed the demo. But there's quite a bit to remember. There's a lot of different things. It's not the simplest of rule sets just off from the off. Reminds me a little bit of Infinity, to be honest. Um, Tony saying +1 for All Out War. Good that it built up from the core rules too. Yeah, I like that. With the expansions almost just introduced sort of a few more rules, didn't they? Which is why, to be honest, I mean, the guy that wrote that is Mark Latham, the guy that wrote those rule sets. So that's why I was quite interested in the Harry Potter game because he was writing those as well. But it's not the Harry Potter ones. Maybe missed the mark for a different reason rather than the rules, I think. Jamie saying Shadespire's on version 1.3, that they must tighten up the language and hope will in season 2. I think maybe they've been so far ahead with Shadespire with their planning and their production that they've probably realised that maybe by the time the core set came out, just how ambiguous some of their rules were. Maybe, but by that point, probably waves 3, 4, and 5 were probably already off at the printers in China. So yeah, maybe for season 2 we might start to see that tighten up a little bit. Steve saying like a quick reference sheet for rules. So after you've read the rules, you don't need to keep digging through the rule book. Yeah, couldn't agree more for that. I mean, sort of Board Game Geek is full of people who've put together sort of quick reference sheets for games that don't come with them. It was something I mentioned in the Dreadball review that I did, was that actually the back page of the rule book is kind of a quick reference guide, but it also has the page number where that rule is. So if the quick reference isn't enough or you want some more detail, it's very easy to go and find where that is in the book. And that's something that's kind of sorely missing from a lot of games. Um, Jimmy's saying to try BattleTech Alpha Strike, smaller, quicker skirmisher. I've never played any of the BattleTech games, so I don't really know much about it other than I assume they're big robots. Tony saying I'll give that a look. Andrew Pierce, good evening, Andrew. Hope you're very well. He's saying he's hoping I'm well as well. Listening to you while painting Bo from Guild Ball. So you're a Guild Ball player. I must admit, I've done a bit of Guild Ball painting. I've got the kickoff set. After I got it, there was no local place to me, so I've never actually kind of gotten into it. I've kind of played little demo games myself just to get my head around the rules. and the rules seem really straightforward. Again, I think we're talking about what makes a good rule set, and I think Guild Ball is another one of those games that they haven't drifted too far away with their rules from their original set. They update it a little bit every season, and they bring in some things just to keep it fresh. But it seems a pretty good rule set as well. So nice to have you, Andrew. Welcome to the stream. We got Michael in. What did you miss? You've missed everything, Michael. We've talked about everything already tonight, mate. No, you've not missed too much, mate. The subject tonight is we're talking about what makes a good rule set. I'd love to know from you, Michael. What do you think makes Kings of War a good rule set? Because I know you're a big fan of Kings of War. Jamie saying the undercoat Corax white and airbrushed army painted dead white air. Yeah, but there's definitely a difference, isn't there? That Corax white's it's quite grey. It's a bit grey blue, really. Michael's saying all out war. This is a good year. Some good stuff coming. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, Michael, because I got in on the Kickstarter, and I pretty much everything that's come out so far pretty much came with the Kickstarter. So that's about 18 months worth of releases. So whilst I've been watching it, I think the problem was I probably didn't grow with the game. I kind of just got everything dumped on me. It was quite overwhelming at one point. So I haven't really played with the expansions too much. I've just kind of stuck to the core box really, and maybe one of the expansions. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it grows now through the next few waves. I also heard as well for All Out War, for anybody that's interested, that they're going to turn it into a real skirmish game as well. So not just the kind of the small board thing that we see at the minute. Now the game's grown, it's all got a few different miniatures. I think they're going to make it more like a skirmish game as well. So there's going to be additional rules for that. So that'll be excellent. Tim Kelly is saying Warlord really good at producing quick references and free rules. I don't think I've ever really played a Warlord game. I very quickly had a demo of Test of Honor that Jamie did for me down at Asgard War Games, but I've never really played any of the Warlord games. So I've not played Bolt Action. I've seen the new Blood Red Skies seem to be really popular at Salute. That seems to be getting a lot of good press. Adam's seen all the Gangs of Rome starter set that's just been released. I saw it at Salute, Adam. Actually, it was £35, I think, and with the terrain that was included in it, it seemed a really good price. I know Jamie picked it up, so Jamie might be able to kind of say a little bit more about it. Jamie saying the thing that puts you off Kings of War is the predictable charging. Why is that? Why is that a big deal in Jamie? Is that a hangover from the old fantasy days where it was more random, or is predictable charging? Does that not make it more tactical because you know what's coming? Be interesting to know what your reasoning behind that is. So Jens is saying I have all out war stuff. Only the retail exclusive stuff needs to be bought by me. Yeah, I've got a couple of the retail exclusive bits. Some of it I won in a competition from Mantic when the game first launched as well. So I was quite thankful for that. Michael is saying about Kings of War rules, insanely easy to play. I learned it in 1 or 6 turns, but really hard to master. You need to be one step ahead, even your own turn. Yeah, that's the impression I get from watching your video as well, Michael, which I quite enjoyed. So for anybody that's into Kings of War, if you go head over to, I think it's on your MTG and More channel, Michael, isn't it? He's done a Kings of War playthrough. It definitely seems it's a game very much about maneuvering and about placement and trying to think 2 or 3 moves ahead. A bit more like chess, I guess, in that respect. Adam's saying yes, the Sarissa precision terrain. They had a Sarissa stand actually at Salute as well, and some of the stuff that they had on there, I think they're also starting to make Star Wars Legion, not official Star Wars Legion, but space style terrain. So we've got Panzer in as well. Nice to see you, Pete. I hope you're well, mate. So it's just building Gangs of Rome set, and the rules are great and fun. I'm surprised there's anything left for you, Pete, to be building for Gangs of Rome. It seems like every time I pick my phone up, there's a new picture from you building and painting something. I can't believe there's anything left that you haven't already got. Jamie's saying because you just sit an inch outside of charge range, there's no risk. Is that not part of the tactic though, for to either mitigate that or to ensure that you don't get into range? Does it just become a shooting game? Michael, you might be able to tell me. does it end up people just end up building shooting armies because of that? Michael's saying about Walking Dead, there'll be a skirmish book with bigger point values, and All Out War Wave is the last wave coming. From then on, they're going to focus on the war with Negan. Yeah, quite exciting times, isn't it? It's a game that's grown really well. It's done well for Mantic, and it's, to be honest, I mean, it's certainly when at Salute, it still seemed to be selling really well. The amount of people picking up Walking Dead stuff, even 18 months after its kind of launch, the buzz about it hasn't died off, I wouldn't say. Tony saying another thing kept me away from 40k is having 5 different rule books. Yeah, now getting back to that topic about what makes a good rule set, having those multiple different rule books, it just makes it's, for me personally, it's a barrier to entry. It's another reason not to get into it. So having the rule book, having to have a codex, then the codex changes, then there's an expansion, then there's, you need to know what your opponent's playing against. It just seems to get out of hand, where a lot of other games, the rules are just, the rules come either on cards with the miniatures that you buy, or the rules are on PDFs to download for free. There's, and even from AOS really as well, you've got the main rules, which are essentially 8 pages, and they're free, and you've got the war scrolls, which again are free. You can download them for free. But then there's the general's handbook. Then there's a lot of sort of tactics, sort of specialist rules that come in the army books, or I think they're called army books, aren't they? Or battle tomes, I think they are. So even AOS, whilst on the surface looks like it's all quite sort of free and cheap, all the points values are all in the general's handbook. And then if the army gets an update after the general's handbook comes out, then there's obviously more to pick up then as well. Where are we? Jamie saying he still likes Kings of War, so even though it's got its foibles, I guess it's still a good game. Yeah, Jens is looking forward to the Negan stuff. Pete saying that there's still stuff to buy. I think they must be just making it for you, Pete. They must say we need to keep going. Pete's nearly ran out of miniatures to paint. Tony saying the upcoming Walking Dead stuff sounds great to play. You know what is? I must get another Walking Dead video done. I love the game. I get sidetracked with everything else that's going on as well. I must go back and play another game of that. Jamie saying blood on the Aventine is great value. The price for entry, Gangs of Rome, put me off initially, but the starter set was great value. Is it generally quite expensive, Jamie, for the other stuff? Is it? Jamie saying he also got some a few walkers for free at Salute. Put me in the mood for Walking Dead. Jens is saying, yeah, rule books, reference book, erratas. That's it. It, it, it is for some games, I guess. Yeah. But it it is hard. So, for example, I played Star Wars Destiny for quite a while, and still do play now and again. Um, and they did a sort of a few FAQs and a few updates that changed point values on cards, which if you don't keep up with that kind of stuff, you would never know about. And it's a bit of a shame when it kind of invalidates stuff that you've already got. Um, Tony saying hasn't read Joan of Arc rules yet, but hope they're good. Yeah, I mean, certainly I watched a lot of the Beast of War videos when that was on Kickstarter. It did look excellent, actually. And actually, my brother-in-law, who I went to Insomnia with, isn't really a gamer, but he did say that he watched one of my videos a while ago when I mentioned Joan of Arc, and he almost backed it because how good it looked. So that probably speaks volumes for it. Let's see where we are. Again, chat's moving fast tonight. So we got Neil saying, I think I'm daft. I struggle with a lot of rules, so I just stay painting. Yeah, I tend to, I don't so much struggle with the rules, but I wouldn't say I'm not one of these people that read the rules and suddenly see whether the synergies and see where everything works really well. I learn much more by visually seeing the game and seeing how it pans out. I can't just sit and read the rules and suddenly see where all the little kind of loopholes are. Um, uh, Michael is saying you can break free because of the ones or because of the 1 inch. And then interesting is that you can switch between combat. How I take down the dragon in the report. Okay, so you can so you can move, you can break free of that 1 inch. Jamie's saying I think that's unfair on 40k. If you want to play 40k out of the box, you can. If you want a bigger experience, you can. Yeah, you certainly. If you want to just play it out of the box, you can do. But I think what's happened is there's the community, or certainly the community that I see, are very heavily into it. So they don't just kind of play out of the box. They play with everything that's there. So it's quite difficult, in my experience, to just pick up an out of the box game, which is why I'm building them up and just trying to play with the with what comes in the box, really, rather than trying to get heavily invested in it. I just want to have a try of the game and understand if what the rule set's actually like, really, for my own experience and my own knowledge. Um, Jens is saying the Joan of Arc rules have to be good because it's such a big game. Hope they don't screw it up. Yeah, I think they've probably got a good handle on it, but I guess until the proof of the pudding's in the taste, and I think they say, isn't it? So we'll see what happens when it comes out. Mark saying I like the games that have quick start rule set. When you get to understand them, then use advanced rules. Yeah, I'm the same as well. I almost like to kind of get my head around it. Once I understand the basics, I'll take a step deeper again. Mark was saying would love to see more Walking Dead videos. Motivate you to get yours painted. Yeah, I think I'll definitely have the. What I might do is I might actually build another board because I've got loads of the MDF kind of 2x2s cut when I first got that one cut. I might build another board for one of the expansions. I think the prison one I think might be nice, quite interesting, or maybe the Woodbury one. Tim's saying if you buy an add on for 40k or EOS, you should get the squad, the troop, the hero card, or the rules included in the box. I think you actually do. I don't know about 40k, but certainly in AOS, you tend to get the war scroll included in there as well. The problem is that it doesn't have any points costs on it, and if there's been any updates since that box was made, then I guess it's not the latest ones. But going back to Jamie's point, you can kind of you can just play out of the box if that's how you and your friends want to play. Um, Walking Dead, Pete's in. Walking Dead's a great game. Skirmish game sounds good. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that is really, because I think there'll be a lot of people have bought quite a bit of Walking Dead stuff by that point. Jamie's saying so. AOS is a living game. The General's Handbook is yearly and really aimed at match play tournaments. Yeah, it is, and I think 40k has learned from that as well with the chapter approved annual sort of updates as well, and I think I think the fact that it's a living game of like that is getting them away from these kind of 2 or 3 years of getting bogged down with one set of rules, constantly trying to redo codexes and then a massive overhaul. I think they've learned from AOS that those yearly updates is what keeps the game fresh. Um, but yeah, it's definitely an evolving game. It just makes it a little more difficult, I think, to come in once it's very much established and there's a lot of different rule books and expansions and there's not so much expansions, sorry, FAQs and bits. It just makes it the entry point a little bit more muddy. When I got into it, it was just as the General's Handbook was coming, so it was almost a good point to kind of step into it. Um, let's just see here again. Chat's just getting away a little bit. We've got everything jumping around. Just bear with me while I get my chat back up. It just disappeared for a second there. So PT and Gangs of Rome can be expensive with the terrain and such, but it's fun to build. I've not really seen the prices much, to be honest, so I'm not exactly sure just how expensive it can be. Um, Tim is asking, is there a big difference between The Walking Dead and Project Z? I think there's some people chatting mentioning this further down in the chat. I've not played Project Z, so I can't really comment on that one. Jimmy saying all AOS minis have the rules in the box. Yeah, I thought that was the case. Jens is saying that Joan of Arc was his most expensive Kickstarter right now. Yeah, it was. It wasn't a particularly cheap one, but you do get a lot of stuff for your money. That's for sure. Um, Todd, sorry, Adam is saying yeah, Project Z is cheaper but pretty much dead. That's a shame actually, because from what I've heard, it's not a bad game. Todd saying Walking Dead No Sanctuary seemed to combine RPG with a board game and a miniatures game. It was a major fail because the rules are too clunky. Yeah, I think sometimes you can be too clever, can't you, and try and do too much with one game. Tony is saying, Jens, I could have bought a house with the money Joan of Arc cost me, but it's right up my street. Yeah, I think it was quite a pricey little one, wasn't it? Oof. Jens is saying over 420 euros. Wow, that is a big investment. I hope for your sake the rules don't suck as well. And it says you also get good money for the expansions you may not need. Todd's saying probably get Project Z just to add to Zombie Games collection. Yeah, one of the first one of the things I did this week on Twitter and on Instagram was I posted sort of 4 games that's been quite influential to me in my gaming life. One of them was The Walking Dead, but another one of them was Last Night on Earth, which is a zombie board game, very thematic feel of a kind of 80s horror film. But yeah, there's something about zombie games that I just quite enjoy. Um, Tony saying just watched the Walking Dead board video earlier tonight. I'm going to give it a bash, even though I have the neoprene mats. Yeah, when I did that, the neoprene mats were quite some distance away. So even if you'd backed them in the Kickstarter, the neoprene mats weren't coming out for quite some time. So I just decided to try and knock something up for myself because at the time it was just the paper mats, and I was a bit worried that they were going to end up getting torn. What I did later on as well was I then made another video about how I'd kind of sort of stiffened up the paper mats a little bit as well. But I've still got that Walking Dead board, and it still looks as good as the day I built it. Tony saying, "Yep." Plus the dragon. I remember seeing that dragon for Joan of Arc. Adam saying Project Z minis are nice, enjoy painting them, but very stereotypical. I think that's the thing with zombie games, isn't it? They do tend to just be that very kind of, that one-dimensional zombie, I guess. Todd saying I got the game Z War, easy game to play, but a tad bit one-dimensional. Yeah, that's a shame again as well, isn't it? Jamie saying he's slightly biased for AOS tournament player. Uh, I do enjoy AOS tournament player. I've never really played the narrative or the or open player, but what I would say is that it's that the matched play side of things just seems to be what everyone plays in my experience, and it's the same for 40k, and that's kind of what I meant by it's quite difficult entry point. There's it's not you can play out of the box, but most people tend not to. So. Michael saying he shared €260 for a copy, including everything of Deep Madness. Hope that's worth the money. I hope so too, mate. I don't know much about Deep Madness, so I hope it pans out for you, mate. We've got Phil Wilkinson's in as well. Nice to see you, Phil. I hope you don't mind me calling you Phil. I know he says Phil up there, but I assume you're a Phil as well, mate. Zombie games sound fun. Hi, everyone. And Jens, so Jens has gone. Jens, have you had a bit of a lottery win on the side or something, mate? You seem to have backed a lot of these expensive Kickstarters. There's again Kickstarter wise, there's a hell of a lot going on at the minute as well. I don't know if anybody saw the Beast of War weekender this weekend just gone. Now they were talking about a game, and I can't. Was it called Mega City something? I forget the name of it now, but it was kind of based on a kind of 80s, almost Streets of Rage, Double Dragon type aesthetic, and it looked really interesting actually. And I've been trying to remember the name of it. I must want to try and dig it out because I wouldn't mind having a look at that Kickstarter and seeing just sort of what it's about. It just looked very kind of very stereotypical 80s beat 'em up kind of, like a Schwarzenegger or a Stallone film or something like that. I quite like the thought of it actually. Um, Adam is saying zombies have variety. It's the humans that are from 1980s B movies that are stereotypical. Yeah, that's probably the case. Actually, you've always got the high school kind of jock with a baseball bat, and you've got um, the lone hero kind of thing. Yeah, they are a bit one dimensional. Tim saying I think I must be buying old AOS packs, no info in the boxes. I think they tend to be on the instruction books. I think. I know that the ones that I've bought in the past. I'm trying to think now, actually. Yeah, the ones I've bought, I think in the instruction manuals, I think it's got the war scrolls in there. Neil saying Zombicide was good. Still need to try Walking Dead. Um, you're based in the northeast, Neil, aren't you? I seem to remember you're a Newcastle based guy. If you ever fancy a game of Walking Dead, I'm sure we can meet at a club or something like that, and we can have a game sometime. Um, Phil's happy with a Phil. That's all right then, as long as I'm not. I always kind of worry when I say things like that somebody gets offended by it. Mark saying he saw the Beast of War. It was Mega City 1 sounding. Yeah, it was definitely something about Mega City something, wasn't it? I remember that bit. Todd saying Zombie 15 has great beer and pretzels game, winning 15 minutes or die. Certainly no problem with the time of the game then is it that you're not going to be playing that one for too long. It's one of them where you just go, I'll play again, I'll play again. Jamie saying to Tim, if you're buying the old orange fantasy boxes, they won't. All the war scrolls are free to download in PDF form, and the new white boxes they're at the back of the build instructions. Yeah, I thought that was the case. I thought that was it. Certainly, from the ones I've bought, which were Stormcast, which obviously weren't old fantasy miniatures, and Beastclaw Raiders, I bought the Icewind Assault set, and that was definitely one of the white newer boxes, and it was all in there. Excuse me. Marcus saying Mega Metro City. That was it. It comes out on April the 24th, so that's tomorrow. So not too long to wait to check that one out. Then the miniatures seemed really nice actually, but it'd be nice to see more of a gameplay thing. Excuse me. Adam saying, yeah, also has the black guy or the big woman heavy weapons. Yeah. Neil saying, cheers, struggling to find players. I'll get some painted. Yeah, there's it's one of them games that everyone seems to talk about, but you don't hear about too much. But I've certainly got a pile of stuff. There's one of the guys in my gaming group as well. He's just bought into it, and he's going to start a Walking Dead YouTube channel quite soon as well. So I know he'll be keen to get some games. So yeah, if you check out Newcastle Warlords on Facebook, you'll find out what they meet on a Thursday every other week. I think you'll probably manage to get a few games there, mate. If you're looking for some opponents, I'll certainly try and get there when I can as well. Jens is saying Judge Dredd Mega City 1. I think it's obviously taken a bit of a. Actually, I was going to say I think it's taken a bit of a kind of a theme from that, but I don't think it is really because it's not. It's not really futuristic. It just feels very heavily kind of 80s inspired. So the kind of the terrain. I think the way it kind of works is it looks like it's almost a side-scrolling game. So almost as you move through the board, you put another board on the end of it and then kind of keep scrolling through it like a sky scrolling kind of old arcade game. And the tiles that were coming down on it looked really much like the kind of Double Dragon backgrounds. There was a DeLorean there that looked like the Back to the Future car. There was a truck there that looked like Optimus Prime from Transformers. There was some real kind of Easter egg type sort of things that were on these boards. If you haven't seen it, either go and try and check it out. Um, Mega Metro City. Do a Google search for it, or try and watch the Beast of War Weekender. They went through some of the stuff on Saturday. It just looked quite interesting, something a little bit different. Jamie's saying, while I think on Warlord Strontium Dog's been written by Andy Chambers and Gab Thorpe. Yeah, I remember us chatting about this, Jamie. It's two sort of well versed, well kind of well placed people to write it. If I seem to remember right as well, one of them is like a massive Judge Dredd fan and was really excited about doing the game. Adam saying so Streets of Rage. Yeah, it's exactly that kind of Streets of Rage, Double Dragon. What were the other ones that were a bit like that as well? There was a one. What was the one where the mayor was an ex wrestler, like a massive big guy? It wasn't Streets of Rage, was it? It might have been, but I can't remember now. But I remember these kind of arcade machines from being a kid. Jens is saying, yeah, it's Mega Metro City, and Mark's saying, yeah, it's on Board Game Geek. It's probably worth checking it out if you're into that. If you're kind of that 80s nostalgia, that old kind of 8-bit and 16-bit side scrollers, it'll certainly kind of ping a few little bits of interest on it. So that would be cool. So yeah, so what have we got coming up then? We've got Wednesday, as I mentioned before. There's my Hellboy video. Absolutely loved playing that game. I'll definitely be back in that one. So that goes live on Wednesday. The video goes live, and the Kickstarter goes live on Wednesday as well. So that's going to be interesting just to see exactly what's in the Kickstarter. and what's included in it and what the expansion goals are. So I'm looking forward to that one. I'll have another video up on Friday, which I've got to film when I get home tomorrow night. Trying to get back on top of that one now. For anybody that is interested, there's a link to my Patreon page. I'd like to say a thank you to the people that have already donated to me as well. It's very, very much appreciated. I won't single them out by name in case they don't want to be named, but I've sort of massively appreciated of the people that's already sort of helped out. So there'll be a link down the bottom of the description as well. For anybody that's interested, I'm rocking the merchandise this evening. These are the t-shirts that are available. I'll just bit of fashion modelling there for you all. So if anybody's interested in them, if you go across the Teespring and look for BlackJack Legacy as well, you'll be able to see the t-shirts as well. Yes, it was a final fight. That's the one I was trying to think of, Tim. Well remembered. Yeah, Hagar. That was the guy, the big. He was the mayor of the town or something, wasn't it? Is it his daughter that went missing? I think I seem to remember. Jens is asking, do I know the price for Hellboy? I don't know anything, Jens, about the price that it's going to be. I know that in the core set, there's going to be 4 characters, which are Hellboy, Liz, Abe Sapien, and Johann Kraus. So they're going to be the 4 sort of heroes, if you like, or the 4 BPRD agents that come in the core set. And then there'll be the frog monsters, the frog swarms, and some of the boss battles, if you like, the boss fights. I assume that through the Kickstarter, it'll unlock expansions or it'll unlock extra miniatures. I know that for anybody that's read the blog tonight, it was mentioned about you can have backup agents, and the backup agents basically help you sort of, they're off searching for clues for you while you're playing the game, and you can take a rest during the game, and they can go and kind of find clues for you while you're resting. In the game, they're just going to be tokens, I think, to represent where they are. But I think some of the expansions, or certainly some of the stretch goals, I think, might end up turning those into actual miniatures as well. So no prices, no prices, no prices confirmed yet. I would say I haven't seen any prices for those yet. Jamie's saying, when can we buy the fuck the mold line shirts? Do you know what it is? I was driving down to Manchester this morning just thinking about that, actually. I might try and get some design at the weekend when I've got a bit of time. Adam's saying, is it Kickstarter only, or are they releasing it properly? No, it's Kickstarter to get it launched, but it's going to be released properly. And from what I understand, speaking to James, there's expansions planned for it as well. So it will go to retail, and there'll be expansions for retail. I think they've definitely they've learned some lessons over time about how to how to engage the trade. I know that Mantic have had a little bit of backlash in the past, I think, about how they, especially with the Dreadball release, I think they almost kind of killed the game by over kickstarting it. So yeah. Yeah, Adam, Michael's saying someone's asking the right questions here about the mold lines. Yeah, so actually, on about mold lines. So I was building these Games Workshop miniatures this week, putting them together, and I didn't do any of the mold lines. The only bits I scraped off were the ones that where they fit together, where the little bit of the sprue hadn't been clipped off properly and it wouldn't fit together properly. Then were the only bits I cleaned off. Because what I thought was, I want to try and give them a really quick paint job, have a game, and if I enjoy it, I might film a game like and try and as an introduction to 40k, as a, if you buy the starter set, this is how to play the starter set, if you like. I've kind of realized over time that if you get your miniatures on camera, you can't even see the paint jobs 90% of the time. Like, you can't see the details on them. So I want to really give this, because they're miniatures I don't particularly don't care about. It's a bit harsh, but I'm not worried about how they look. I'm really going to try and give them a very basic paint job to just try and see how they turn out. Neil saying I'd buy a mold line t-shirt. There's a few people asked about them actually, Neil. I definitely need to get them done, mate. Michael's saying only when it's printed on the inside. I remember that discussion. So you have all the seams on the outside. Todd saying, can't remember if you mentioned it before, but have you heard about the Chronicle X Kickstarter? If so, what are your thoughts? I have the work in progress rules. No, I've not mentioned it, Todd, and I don't actually know anything about it. What Chronicle X reminds me, is this, maybe I'm just getting mixed up with X-Men stuff, but is it it's not a Marvel thing, is it? It's not. I don't think it's anything to do with that one. Jens is going. He's going to head off now. Maybe see you next week. Thanks very much, Jens. I'm glad you could make it tonight. And again, congratulations to you and your family about the your addition to the family, the little your son there. So congrats, bud. Um, yeah, Chronicle X, not something I know about actually. I'll have to do a little bit of digging. The video I did a couple of weeks ago about the sort of Kickstarters that were happening in April seems to have got quite a bit of views. People seem to be genuinely interested in it. Um, so I'm definitely going to try and make that a monthly thing. So if there's any kind of unusual Kickstarters that you guys have noticed, feel free to drop me a message and let me know about them, and I'll make sure I include them in the video. I'm trying to not just cover everything that's out there for Kickstarter. I'm trying to kind of break it down to maybe 5 that seem really interesting. Either the big ones where we know quite a bit about them and they've kind of really smashed through their funding goals, and where and try and pick out a bit more information about them, or some that have maybe kind of been a little bit on the back burner, a little bit quiet. I mean, one that I did miss, and I think it might have been Christian, I think, reminded me about it, was the Awful Orphanage, and I went in and I checked that one out afterwards, and that one looked excellent as well. And to be honest, I felt sorry for that I'd not managed to include it in that video really, because I think what happened, I think when you've got a YouTube channel, you can see where some of your views are coming from, where the traffic's coming from, and what people are searching for. And one of the things I think that helped that video was people were searching for Zombicide, and it will be nice to include some of the smaller companies alongside these bigger ones, so that when people search for Zombicide, they also find these kind of smaller companies as well to give them a little bit of exposure. So that would be quite interesting. Todd is saying it's more like an X-Files type of game. That sounds quite interesting, actually. I've not heard about it at all. But what I will do is I will certainly write it down here, Chronicles X, and then I'll keep an eye out for that one and have a look at it. Mark saying want to check out his Crypt, $9 for the game, a Dyson card game. All right, I'm writing these down. Cheers, mate. I like the idea of these kind of small Dyson card games. My we're off on holiday in June, my wife and the family, and she's asked me to kind of try and pick up a couple of these small kind of card games that we can, or small board games that we can play on an evening when the little one's asleep. Bottle of wine, sit on the balcony, and have a little board game or something like that while he's asleep. So I'll be interested to watch out for a few of those types. Todd saying the premise is aliens invading the Earth and a team of humans fighting the invasion. That sounds quite interesting. I'll definitely have to check that one out. We've got Bazza in. Nice to see you, Bazza. How are you doing? Always good to see you in, mate. Jamie King. Nice to see you too, Jamie. Are you playing BlackJack? If you mean, are we playing BlackJack tonight? No, sorry, mate. We're a channel about board games, miniature games, card games, dice games, anything to do with tabletop gaming. So not BlackJack specifically. So apologies if that's what you're looking for. Adam's saying Flux all versions. I've actually picked up Zombie Flux because of my love of zombies. So I've yet to play it yet, but I have got that one to take it with me. I don't know whether I've started with the best one. Maybe I should have just picked up Basic Flux to kind of get my head around the game. But no, I've not got that one. I've not played it yet. Tony saying Forbidden Island is a good one to take on holiday. I am writing these down, mate. Mark also mentioned another good one to me as well, which was Hive or pocket version Hive as well. So I've put that one on my list of stuff to take as well. Forbidden Island. Thank you very much for the recommendation. Yeah, I mean, the kind of stuff that we've played are things like Smash Up, which Christian recommended to me, and I really enjoyed that game. Thank you, Christian. Things like, I'm going to say a Timeline, and I know people will probably hunt me down and kill me for that one. It's a very, very basic game, but it's a very straightforward, easy to play, tiny little box in a little metal tin, so it travels quite well. And it's just a bit of fun. It's not something that we'd play too seriously or for too long. So those kind of things, those kind of little card games, little dice games, are really interesting. Jamie's backing that one up as well. Forbidden Island is great. Looks like that one could be a winner then. Thank you. Oh, throat's going dry tonight. All this bloody talking. Yeah, I sat in the restaurant down here in the hotel just before I came on the live stream, and had a bit of food that's not sitting not sitting too well at the minute. Adam was saying tiny epic games as well. I've heard it had tiny epic games. And somebody else mentioned that one to me a while ago, but I'm not. I must admit, I forgot to look it up. So then, we have got. Where are we now? With April coming into May now, aren't we? We've got UK Games Expo at the end of next month, which is a massive, big board games expo, which also has quite a bit of tabletop stuff there as well. So if anybody's going along, or sorry, I'll say that again. If anybody's going along and they want to say hi, let me know, and I'll make a point of coming and saying hi. And also, if anybody is looking for any information on any specific games, let me know, and I'll try and do some digging while I'm there. I'm planning to be on there for the full 3 days of the Games Expo. So yeah, I'll give me something to do a little bit of digging and get some demo games in as well. Tim saying tempted by Rumble Slam, looks fun. Might pick up the base set. I've got a video on my channel, Tim, which is an unboxing of the base set. Excuse me, really good quality stuff inside. I would say for the money, it's really good. Quite a simple game to get started with, but the price of the little kind of the wrestling teams, if you like, are pretty good, and the quality of the sculpts is excellent. Check out Rage Against the Dice's channel. He's got loads of Rumble Slam videos on there, and that'll give you an idea of the game. Christian saying Boss Monster is a great little card game. Boxes are styled after SNES designs. Ooh, that sounds good. I do like a little bit of retro stuff on that one. So we'll get that one written down too. Boss Monster. Michael is saying just backed Crypt. See, whoever mentioned Crypt, you've just got them an extra backer there as well. So is it far away from being funded on that one, Michael? I'm going to have a check after this tonight. But just a bit of information. Tim saying he kickstarted Tiny Epic Zombies. Looks fun. Nice one. Jamie White, I am. Oh, I'm trying to read back now and seeing what Jamie's saying. I am. He's saying you are back on it as well. Tony's saying he'd be demoing for a friend at UK Games Expo. Hopefully, see you there. Yeah, definitely. When it gets a bit closer to time, let me know whereabouts you're going to be, and I'll come across and get a demo with your game. I think we briefly spoke about it a little while ago, but yeah, just keep reminding me. Tim saying he's already seen it. You're a legend, Tim. Thank you. Mark saying Crypt is well funded. Only 8 days left. For that price, though, I'm not surprised. I mean, the amount of Kickstarter stuff at the minute, that's like one is starting at like minimum of €100 or something. And I mean, as we've talked tonight, some of the stuff that Jens had backed up at the €400 marks and stuff like that. It's nice to see something at kind of a bit more entry level. We've got Roman in. Hola. Nice to see you, Roman. Hope you're very well. How are we doing for time? We're at about 10 past 10. We'll go for another 5 or 10 minutes or so, guys, and then I think I'm going to call it a night. I've got a few things to do for work in the morning, so I don't want to be up too late tonight. Todd is saying Todd said something and then disappeared as I was reading it. Michael's saying a whole shitload of goals already unlocked. Nice one. Jamie going to UK Games Expo as well. I didn't realise you were going, Jamie, actually. Are you going down just for the day? Are you going for a couple of days? Are you staying over? I've booked a hotel just outside of outside the expo. That's one thing I would say is that I went recently to Insomnia and I booked a hotel actually like on the complex where the NEC is. I booked was it the Marriott? I think it was the Marriott. And the price was really reasonable, actually. It wasn't too bad at all. The prices for UK Games Expo are horrendous. We're talking like 200 quid a night for hotels around the NEC. I couldn't believe just how expensive it was. there's no way I'm going to spend £600 on hotels. I could stay like outside of the expo and spend bloody £500 of that on board games if I was going to shell that kind of money. I just couldn't believe how much those hotels were. So yeah, unfortunately, I'll be driving in and out. It would have been nice just to stay on the kind of on the complex type thing, but yeah, not at those prices. Are you looking for anything special, Jamie? Are you looking for some board games, or are you just kind of going to have a mooch around and see what it's about? I remember going to the Games Expo years ago when it used to be was it the Strathallan Hotel in Birmingham, and it was a much smaller convention and felt like it was kind of run by a local group. These days, the Games Expo seems to really kind of stepped up a notch, and it's um, quite a professional experience now. Todd saying, just read the write-up for Zombicide Invader Dark Side. The sound you hear is the sound of my wallet screaming at me. Yeah, unfortunately, that tends to be what happens, isn't it? Tim saying, stay in the Brum City Centre and get the train. That's potentially a better option, actually. I've reserved a hotel that I can cancel because I thought I'll just reserve something while I've got a good price, and I'll do a bit more digging. But that might be a better idea, actually. Um, Training in, because you can get the train straight to the expo, I think, can't you? Because it's near the airport. Tony saying, be driving in too, staying in Coventry. The NEC hotels are mega pricey. I couldn't believe it, honestly. I mean, like I say, I stayed there recently, and the price wasn't too bad. I think for me and my brother-in-law, I think I got a room for the two of us, including breakfast, for actually, I think it was about 120 quid for the night for the two of us, and they actually also upgraded us to the like lounge access, so we got like free beers on the night time and stuff as well. Um, so I couldn't believe it when I went to have a look for NEC. The Genton Arena Hotel was something like 300 quid a night. I couldn't believe that. Mark is saying, yeah, yeah, he's obviously crying out with the price of that one as well. Adam saying, same thing happens price wise for Gamescom and Leipzig. I just can't. I mean, I'm surprised that these. I mean, obviously, what you'll probably find is there's a lot of companies and stuff will pay the prices and kind of claim it back through their business and all that kind of stuff. Or people who are demoing there will probably get rooms maybe paid for or whatever. But yeah, for your average kind of gamer who wants to just stay in the area, you've got to have deep pockets, I think, for that one. Jamie saying, going to get the skinny on the new shade spire from GW. Ah, say no more, mate. Say no more. Tim saying the Ibis near New Street Station, Travel Lodge, Premier Inn, and Stay City Apartments are close to. Yeah, the place I've booked, I'm trying to remember what it's called now. It's called the the Oak. Is it the Royal Oak or something like that? I've stayed there a couple of times when I've been down to Birmingham, and it's about 7 miles away, something like that. You've got to drive in and out, but it was relatively cheap, and the staff and that there were quite nice and friendly and stuff. So that's where I've stayed in the past. But yeah, I think I need to do a bit more digging really and try and find somewhere else. Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to call it there. I think we've had a good chat tonight. Really enjoyed your company tonight. I appreciate everybody for coming in. Thank you so much. Um, what I'll say is, if you haven't joined the Facebook group and you're watching this on the video coming back on YouTube, please come and join the Facebook group. It's a fantastic community. Some really nice people there sharing the work that they're doing on. What I would say is, I'm a members of lots of different communities on Facebook, and I may be saying this kind of a little bit biased, but I honestly think the community in our group is fantastic. There's always support, new people asking questions, and there's always 2 or 3 people within minutes have come back with a suggestion or a reply. So I just want to thank all of you as well who are part of that community group for making it such a fantastic place. Um, and yeah, I guess I'll just wrap it up there then. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone, and I will see you all in the next video.